is that it can work actually with that is mobile layout or with the with some other properties. So it can make items disappear and appear depending on those variables.
Okay.
And if we would switch back to this control, we actually have grid a layout breakpoint demo as well. So here you will have a tablet, and if I would rotate that screen, you will see that a whole bunch of columns have been disappeared.
Mm,
So
nice.
if we want to do this, I mean, feel free to check out this demo anyway, because it has all the code here as well. So if we would want to apply this in our own application, we can do that quite quickly by, for instance, copying over this particular control. I will put this into the grid. So I'm just going to put in this breakpoint here. And in this case, I will change it to 1000. We will now get a curly line underneath is mobile layout. So let me change this to is small or something. I would now create a public bool is small, just like this. The issue will be fixed. And more interesting, I can now go to one of these columns and say visible equals is small. So this is how easy it is to use that breakpoint and do responsive things with it. And if we would now run the application, what you'll see is once I resize the screen here, let me get back to the demo. Oh, I think I did it the other way around. Wait a sec. It's now going to pop in the second column.
Oh,
So let me quickly fix that by doing the inverted thing here. So when it is not small, it should show the second column. So let's do it again. I should, for some reason, my reload has failed. But anyway, so I've got a small screen. It's got one column. And once it exceeds the 1000 pixels, it will get the second one. And now it even pops up the hamburger menu. So this is a small little control that will help you do responsive things.
okay. Nice.
So, but I was going to do something with those themes. Remember, we had that.
Yes, our blazing berry, blazing dark,
Yeah,
those themes.
exactly. So let's have another look at the generated project here. In this case, if I would navigate to the, I think it was the layout. I always mix these two up. But anyway, I need to have the layout. What you see here is there is a style sheet being loaded from our DevExpress library. And in this case, it is the blazing berry. You see?
Mm-hmm.
But if we would like to change that to the dark one, how does that work? Well, that's actually quite simple. We need to change this style sheet to dark. So it's going to be blazing dark. And how do I know that? Well, this is part of our documentation, which clearly states those themes. In this case, it's going to be the dark. If I would now reload the application, let me do it like this. We'll now have the dark. You see?
Oh, yeah. So all
And
you
then,
have to do is change that one line.
yeah, I changed that style sheet. So what we could do is if we would create like a little toggle button right here on top to switch between dark and light. And maybe we could extend that to check the operating system.
What
to
do you mean
see
check
whether
the
the operating
operating?
system is dark or light running, and then we can sync our application with that, and then maybe we can do something with it. So yeah, if you would want to have that toggler should cause this style sheet to change.
Okay, how do you do
So
that? How do you add a toggle or a toggler?
well, I mean, the toggle is one of the controls that we happen to have as well. So for this, I will quickly go back to our demo site because it outlines all the controls that we have. And in this case, if I would go to the data editors, we have a checkbox like this, but the checkbox, let me make the screen a bit bigger. The checkbox has a switch mode as well. You see? So
I see. Yeah.
we could do something with that. But yeah, since Blazor is a component-based architecture, so it's all about components, and I am essentially quite a lazy developer. I only want to do things once, like the same thing once, and I'd rather put in a bit of effort to have it to make it reusable.
I don't know
I'm
if
going
that makes you lazy. I would call that
to,
efficient.
yeah. So yeah, I'd rather spend a couple of days extra to do it only once on a clever way. Yeah, but
Yeah.
uh,
Agreed.
yeah. So for that, and this is also one of the things why I love Blazor because you can do that so easy, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So for now, I'm going to add a new project, and in this case, it's going to be a Razor class library, and that allows you. The Razor class library is like a project, like an assembly, which can contain controls. It can contain HTML, JavaScript, all the web assets can be put into that assembly, and you don't need to do any particular thing to get that to work, which is quite beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, I will also call this DX my controls. So we can actually use this in another project some other time as well. I'll keep that to the same. And what we see now is that it has created a new little project here. And as I mentioned, you can put in all kinds of assets for your application, like JavaScript, images, CSS, you name it. Everything can be put in here, which relates to the controls that you put in.
Okay.
And what you'll see is there is a small JavaScript file because yes, with Blazor you can interrupt with JavaScript as well, and that's probably what we're going to need in a sec. There is an example component, and there is also an example JS interrupt file, and this holds some interesting code. So I will leave it in for now, and we will copy and paste some stuff out of this in our own control. So for this, the first thing I'll do is I'm going to create a new item, and that is going to be a Razor component. This is going to be my DX theme toggler, and that will do some cool stuff. So in this case, it will only hold that checkbox. And before I can do that, let me copy over a couple of things here. So to start, I need a reference to that class library in the main project. So that's going to be done like this. And I want to use the DevExpress checkbox. So for that, I will need to add a reference to the DevExpress assembly. And the easiest way is to just go to the code of your main project, copy over this line, and put it right in here, like this.
Hmm.
Then The other thing that we need to do to make things easier is in the imports, we need to put in some stuff as well. And that is going to be DevExpress Blazor. I can copy that right over from the other one. And now we should be able to put that checkbox in. So let's see what happens here. I will say
DX theme toggler.
what was it? Let me switch over here because we can just get that out. So here,
You can copy it straight from our demo center.
exactly. Saves a bit of time.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And probably I saw that it didn't resolve it. So let me quickly build this one so it will get all the dependencies. Oh, what is this? Something didn't work. Let me check what didn't work. Ah. Okay, I will. Yeah, this should be resolved. Yep. I think it was just updating something in the background. All right, so I copied over that checkbox. Yeah, it looks quite right. And I have the check type set to switch. I have the label position to the left. I will use the bind construct instead of these separate things. So this is going to be bind checked. This is going to be the dark mode. Remember that was the thing that we were trying to do.
Right.
And this can go because I used this bind checked construct. And now typically what we should do is we can create a public bool dark mode. And in this case, we do it like this. So this is our first control. And if we would now go to the header section of our main application, we could put that thing right in here. How did I call it? Theme toggler. Have a quick check how it looks. And we were still running the dark theme. And as you can see, there is.
Oh, I see it.
But I typically want to have that at the other side.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't we want it on the right of the.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks a bit silly. So yeah, how can we achieve that? Well, if I would check out my my developer tools in the browser, I can quickly check how this stuff was positioned. This is obviously part of Bootstrap. And if you're a bit familiar with Bootstrap, then what you'll see is that there is this division, which is not the one that we want, probably. Let me check again. Yeah, so here we have the checkbox, but here is the navigation. The navigation runs in a flexbox configuration. A flexbox is a specific CSS setting that allows you to align items to left, right, top, bottom a bit easier. So this is something we can use. And if I would now Google around for Bootstrap version 5 Flexbox, what we'll see is that we'll get some. So this is just on the Bootstrap side. And this is typically, let me see, the behavior that we want. I tend to forget those tag names, but fortunately, you can look that up. This is typically what I want. So one item should be filled, which is the middle one.
Okay.
The hamburger menu should just be the same size. And the other one, the toggler, should also be the same size. So if we would check how this is done, oh, this one it is. This is even better. It is done with the flex grow on the element that should fill up the remaining space. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So once we get back, I can put that in right here in code. I could also do it in the developer tools as well, by the way. So I could test it out already. So that was that middle section. You see, so I have this title section here.
Mm-hmm.
If I would double click this and paste in the flex grow, you'll see that it is already at the other side.
Fancy.
Yeah, so quick
Can
way
we
of
change, it says silent mode. Is that we can change that text too?
yeah, I was just checking whether you were still working on that. That's obviously the danger of copy and pasting, but you're absolutely right. So let's get back here, and it was going to be dark mode,
Oh,
right?
it's right there. Just change
Yeah,
it.
I was just right here. I copied it over from that demo site, so
Right,
that's the
right, right.
copy and pasting. All right, so but now what we should do, we should somehow change whenever I toggle that button. We should change that style sheet that I showed you in the beginning. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that that is in the head section of the page containing your application. So how can we do something with that? Well,
It's a great question.
actually, I know somebody who can answer that, and
Is it
that
Google again?
of course. I mean, Google is a great thing, but you know what to look for. You need to know what to look for and how to apply it. That's the main thing. So if I would go to DevExpress, Blazor, theme toggler, it happens to be that we have a ticket in our support center that shows how to implement the theme toggler that is already on our demo site. You see?
Wow, yeah, I do see. And are those all the options that you
Yeah,
could
these
have?
are yeah, these are those options. I mean, we also have support for boot swash themes out of my head, and we have the ones that were in the project template as well. But this is a bit of code, and I'm only basically interested in the blazing berry and the dark one.
Right,
So
right.
we can take out a number of things here, and what we'll see is this is the switcher resources. I don't need it. That's for this pop-up, so I don't need it because I have the toggler. There is something here which is interesting, but also not necessary. But this is something which is interesting. So there is a record, and that record has a name and it has a style sheet array. And we can take this over. I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to strip something out. I will just put it in here, and I will remove a number of things because I'm not interested in default because it's either blazing berry or dark.
Right.
And I can remove this as well, and this can go as well. Like this. So now I can create this theme item which is identified by name, and it will return the style sheets needed for that particular one. In this case, it's only one theme, one style sheet.
Right.
I will also need a couple of things here, so I could do that by saying static theme item, which is going to be light theme.
You're
Uh,
missing a T there in static.
yeah, thank you for pointing that out. So that's the static theme item, and that is going to be a theme item. Create. And that's the method that I just created here. And this is going to be blazing berry. If I would also create a dark theme, this is going to be blazing dark. So now I have a reference to the dark and the light style sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Now I need to somehow, yeah, check the main page and switch that theme. So this is something which is written down in the example as well. And that is, let me see, there is a bunch of code involved with stuff that we won't be needing.
So
But
Don, sorry, quick question. So is this something that anyone can access?
yeah,
A support
these
center ticket?
support center tickets are available for everybody. And as you saw, these things are excellent indexed by Google. So whenever you Google something which starts with DevExpress and then the product suite that you want to look for and then ask your question, you'll most likely find something just public accessible.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, there is this head content control. And the head content control was recently introduced in one of the newer releases of Blazor. The head content, I skipped over that in the application, works together with, as its name implies, this head outlet. Because we put a head outlet in here, I can use the head content control on any section in my application to modify the contents there, which is a great feature.
Yeah.
So in this case, I can just copy over that code. And in this case, I can make sure that all the style sheets that were in this particular item are being put in the head. In this case, it's obviously not knowing the active theme, but that can be made available quite quick by saying private theme item active theme. And in this case, I will also initialize it as being light theme. So with this, we are able to do so. But there is one thing that we also need to do, and that is with the dark mode property. For this, I'm going to extend this property slightly. So I'm going to create a private bool dark mode. It's going to be false by default. And in this case, this is going to return the dark mode. Let me align this. And once that value is actually going to be changed, I will, oh, yeah, this is it. So once it's changed, dark mode unequals value, I will change it. Dark mode is value. And to make sure, I'm going to do an invoke async state has changed. So this triggers Blazor to update or to check whether the DOM has changed, and that will force certain elements to be reloaded.
Okay.
Like this. I should put an extra bracket here. So let's see. So when I toggle the switch, this property will change. And if that property changes, this is going to happen. And this will cause that head content to update.
Got it.
Maybe we need to do something else. No, we can leave it as it is. So let's see if we run it. Yeah, this was an error message. That is because my control library has been put up as a startup project. So this is something that you should always do once. Make sure that your application runs as a startup project instead of the library.
Okay.
All right, so let's check. We can get rid of this. Do a reload. And what we see here is that it runs in light mode.
Mm-hmm. Blazing Berry.
And did I reload it correctly? Hey,
Wah.
I
That's
know.
where I'd have that sound effect. Wah, wah,
Yeah,
wah.
I think I've got that sound effect somewhere. Yeah, I think that's this one.
Ah,
I think what I can do is I can remove this.
why? You think that's the issue?
This component will, well, the Blazor application will load that theme toggler, and that will make sure that one of the style sheets will be loaded in this particular section. So we will not be needing this one anymore.
Okay.
And another thing I would like to check here is Blazing Berry, Blazing Dark. And there is something that I missed, which is obviously quite clear. I need active theme, which is what I didn't do.
But we talked about the active theme.
Yeah, I just put it in, but I initialized it. Oh, wait a sec. I initialized it as being the light theme here, but then
Oh.
about it, I probably forgot it. So if I do dark mode, it's gonna be the dark theme. Otherwise, it's gonna be the light theme, like this. And this will make our theme toggle. So
Take
if we
your
would do
fingers
this again,
crossed.
I will refresh just to make sure.
Yeah. Where's
Yeah,
the
I can
where's
do
your
that.
applause button?
Right there. I've got that one as well. All right, so, but
It's like it's the only two you really need, honestly.
yeah,
Maybe some laughter.
if I make like a stupid joke, I've got another one, but I won't do it.
Crickets would be good.
I've got crickets, yeah, but I also have the let me see, I've got the crickets, yeah. I've got
Mhm.
anyway. All right, so now we have our first control that allows us to change themes. And you can use this control on any DevExpress application now. You can just drag it in and it works. How cool is that?
That's really cool. Yeah. So when we add the next thing next week, it'll work, Don?
It's still going to work. Exactly. Yeah. The only thing that we need to be aware of is that with the release of Bootstrap 5.3 out of my head,
Mhm.
Bootstrap itself is introducing a dark mode feature as well. So we might need to change something on that particular area because that works slightly different. But
When is that happening?
well, we can talk about that once we have released 23.2 something
Oh,
with our next major. So we have some time.
okay.
But yeah, let's now check because most operating systems these days they have a feature which let me show you, which is dark or light mode on operating system level. And so if I would go here, I can pick dark or light. If I
Mhm.
switch to light, you will see that all the windows that come with the operating system, they turn to light as well. And even my browser, it turns to light borders. And so I think it would be cool to see if we could actually check somehow whether the operating system is running dark or light.
And then
And
adjust your.
yeah,
Okay. How do you do that?
yeah, good question. Well, let's ask my
Well, that's why I'm here.
yeah. Well, let's ask my friend, Mr. Google himself, or Bing, or Chat GPT, or whoever. But let's see. Um, Let me ask JavaScript how to determine OS dark or light mode. Something like this. Somebody has asked it before. And if I would go to my second best friend, which is Mr. Stack Overflow, it will have this question here. Well, it's actually not my second best friend, but
I was gonna say that's really depressing.
I would say so. Yeah. So, yeah, no. Uh, it's somebody I know. All right. So, with a lot of things, and particularly with Stack Overflow, you should always check what has been answered and if it makes any sense. So here there is Windows and Mac OS. Now we have dark mode, and for CSS I can use yada yada yada. But how can I do that with JavaScript? Here it is exactly. I see a bunch of answers. The one with the green check is always interesting, and it states two things. So if Windows Match Media and Windows Match Media yada yada yada, then we are running dark mode.
Oh, we have somebody in the chat giving us
Yeah.
giving
Well,
us that same info. Final
yeah.
man coming through.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure getting that information, but obviously I also want to show you how to find and apply this kind of information. But nevertheless, thanks. In this case, yeah, this is JavaScript. So we need to enhance our control a bit with some JavaScript interrupt. So let's get back to the project. I'm going to leave this page open because we're going to need it. And as I outlined already, there is some sample code being generated when creating that new class library. Remember, so there is this JavaScript thing. And there is this example GS interrupt. And this has some interesting code, which I'm going to use because this automatically loads JavaScript files on demand once it's necessary. And I like this construction quite a bit. So let's take over this stuff into our theme toggler control. And before we start, here is that sample JavaScript file. So let's create another one. And in this case, it is going to be a new item, and it's going to be in the web somewhere, JavaScript. I'm going to call this DX my controls. This is something that you should think about. Maybe you will create more controls that will involve some JavaScript as well. So we might want to put all that JavaScript in one file because that saves loading on the browser, or maybe you want to separate it because it's different functionality whatsoever. So in this case, I will call it dxmycontrols.js. And now let's head back to Stack Overflow and copy over this information. In this case, I will obviously need a function for that, and in that case, I can use the code that was in the example as well. So in this case, it's going to be exported, so it's actually accessible by Blazor. Is dark mode, and I can change this to return. or I could use the angle bracket construction as well, but that is not really the issue right now. This can go, and this can go. So now I have created a JavaScript function that returns true if the operating system is running dark mode.
Okay.
Now we need to load in the JavaScript function in our Blazor control once it's needed, and call this JavaScript function from Blazor. So for that we will be using JavaScript interrupt. And for that, I'm going to copy over a couple of things out of our example thing here. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll copy over this module task. Oh, let me first copy over that one. And that will be in my theme toggler on top. So the GS interrupt is accessible. I think I should put one of those as well. And then copy over this. What is also interesting with this approach is that this component should implement the async disposable. So that means that the whole reference to the JavaScript runtime, etc., will be cleaned up once this control has been done.
Okay.
So this is something that we can copy over quite easily, but we do need to tweak a couple of things here. So the first thing is that it should implement, so I'll go all the way up, and I'm going to tell the components implements async disposable. That will make sure that everything is cleaned up. And then the constructor should be changed to DevExtreme toggler. And then we'll hit a bit of an issue because a Blazor control cannot have parameters in the constructor. That will fail. And for that, we need to figure out another way, which is not too difficult. But let me get this out of the way here. This file is not going to be loaded, but we're going to be loading our dx my controls GS file. And now what we can do is we can use the inject directive.
What does that do?
Well, that typically does the same as the one that was done in the constructor method. So let me finish this off to make sure that we are not making any mistakes here. So at first there was the constructor here. So if you would check the code here, this is used by the dependency injection, and by using constructor injection, this IGS runtime will be put in at runtime by Blazor, or actually by .NET.
Okay.
But because we cannot use that dependency constructor injection in a Blazor control.
Right. Got it.
Yeah, so I can do that another way by putting in a property here. I'll put the inject attribute in front of it, and then still, once this control will be created with no parameters here, that thing will still be available, and I can still do the same thing in the constructor here.
Okay.
So this is something that we need to do there. And with this in place, we have one other thing that we need to change, and that is this value task, because this was doing a show prompt. So apparently in the JavaScript, in that example, there was a show prompt here. But now we need to ask that dark mode and get its value. So we can change that as well to is dark mode. Oh. It will not have any parameters, and the return type is a Boolean. course, this is also a Boolean, and this parameter is gonna go. So now we also need to change that to something more appropriate, is dark mode. So what I've now done, I have created a method in C# that will actually ask or execute that is dark mode method in JavaScript. And we can do something with that. So what can we do with it? Well, let's create another method or override a method, an existing one, override on after render async. And the cool thing of this method is that it has a first render parameter, which is being put in there once this method will be called. So I'm going to make this async. I will call the base method as well. And now I can check if first render, so this is executed for the very first time. Oh, where did I go? Here. I can now say dark mode is dark mode. Okay, so
Yeah, seems logical.
so this is only happening the first time. It will check that. So yeah, let's see if this. I mean, it makes sense, but let's see if it works. That makes more sense.
It makes sense, but doesn't work. See?
Yeah. So here we are. Let me get this out of the way. So we'll have a bit of. I have to check. We are now running light mode. You see?
Hmm.
Now, well, if I toggle this still works. It's all very fine. If I would now change this one to dark, you'll see everything switch over to dark except for the page.
Hmm.
But if I reload this page, hey,
Hey.
and I can still toggle. And so
Wow.
that is typically how you can ask the operating system. But I did see another thing. Take it a step further. I saw this other thing on Stack Overflow, which I didn't talk about. Let me see. Where is Mr. Stack Overflow? Here. Yeah. This one.
To watch for changes.
So if I see this correctly, that I can actually fire an event once the operating system changes from light to dark. So it will
Okay.
go automatically with the rest of the applications. That would be cool as well, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's do something fun with this as well. So there is this is the code. Let me copy it out. Get back.
So when you just did it, our application didn't change. You had to, but you're saying if you implement this, it will change all of it automatically, even the application you have open.
If the answer is correct on Stack Overflow, then this should work. Yeah. So once the application, when the operating system changes, then yeah, this is always something that we need to check with things on Stack Overflow. But yeah, then it should change like with the other windows of the operating system as well.
Hmm. Okay.
So let me first put that code in here so we can have a look what it actually does. All right. So if I recap here, an event listener in JavaScript is going to be added in case that query changes. But what we typically want to do is this event should make sure that that C# property here is changed. Where was it? Yeah. So because if this one changes, then the theme will change accordingly. So
Okay.
with that, we need to do a bit more JavaScript interrupt. Let's see how we can accomplish that. So the first thing that we will need to do is we need to register we need to export a function that will actually add this event list. We can do that by export function add theme switch listener. But something else that we need to do, we need to get a reference to the Blazor environment so we can access that property and change it or execute a method that will do that. So for that, this method will get a .NET reference. So now we can call this initialization method that will register this particular event listener.
Okay.
We don't want to do anything with this new color scheme, blah, this is not interesting. But what we do want to do is now we want to invoke a method in C# out of JavaScript. And because we are passing in that .NET reference, we can do the invoke async, invoke method it is, I think. And I will call this OS theme switched. And then I can pass in that event matches. That is a true or false. And if it is true, it's going to be dark. And if that is false, it's going to be light. So this is a C# method that we will be calling back from JavaScript, and we'll pass a true or false as a parameter. So we can determine whether the theme has switched to dark or light. And with this,
Anything else?
yeah, I think this should be the JavaScript stuff. Let me remove it. So that comment. So now there is just a couple of things that we need to do, I guess. And one of the things is that we need to define this function in our Razor component. And before we do so, yeah, this is going to be a public void. It doesn't return anything, but it is just gonna have one parameter, which is bool is dark. And what does this thing do? It is gonna say dark mode equals is dark.
It's dark.
But before we can access this method from within JavaScript, we need to decorate this with a GS invocable. And this is all JavaScript interrupt related material. So this is all well documented in the Microsoft side as well on how to deal with JavaScript and vice versa.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, yeah, you have to decorate this method, and now you can call that method from a JavaScript function. Another thing that we need to do is that we need to register that event. So we basically need to call this method here. Where was it? This one. So we need to execute this method at a certain stage. So we can actually bind that and react on changes of the operating system. So we already did that on after render async. This would be a very good moment to bind that event to the browser. And we can do that by pretty much do the, well, we can get this module. I can just take that over. And now I need to call await module dot invoke. Oh, what's happening here? Module invoke void async. And what are we going to do? We're going to execute that event listener. We'll copy that over to make sure that there are no typos here. And I need to pass in that .NET object reference, and that is going to be this. If we wouldn't be doing this, you could only call static methods of this control, which is not what we want. We want to have an instance method because we want to change the property.
Okay.
Let's make sure that we are not making any typos here and that the application will run. So with this in place, we're registering and we're executing, and I guess we are ready to go.
Let's see.
Yeah. All right. So let me make sure it's loaded correctly. If we would now see what this dark mode, what the current theme is, it's dark on the operating system.
Right.
If I change it to light, okay, there it goes. It switches. And what's that slider as well? The slider comes with it as well. You saw that?
Yes.
We'll change that back to light. What's that light mode go? I can make it even cooler. This is obviously we can still use this one as well. Yeah, so you can still do it. What I can do as well, this was Chrome. If I would open up Edge,
Oh, in another browser?
yeah, let's just do it. I'm gonna put that
Oh,
in here as well,
Edge.
and I'm gonna
Risky.
right. All right. So now I'm gonna take it up to the edge. Oh,
Yeah. Hey, Don, we did get a question,
yeah,
but I'm also amazed at what's happening on screen. But um, Rawler, Rowler,
yeah.
Railer says, "Hi, if you were to build a scalable SaaS from scratch, would you then choose Blazor over React, Angular, Vue?"
Yeah, this is typically an answer uh, which depends on many things. Obviously, I'm
It's
totally
complex.
yeah. It depends on a number of things. I mean, it obviously depends on the team that you have. So typically, Blazor is a very exciting and very cool framework. If you happen to have a whole bunch of Visual Studio developers and they need to do SPA applications as well. But if you already have JavaScript guys and they're very good with Vue, React, Angular, you name it, they're familiar with that material. I mean, Blazor obviously does the same, but what you did see is that we have a rich ecosystem already with a bunch of very professional controls. And if you are used to Visual Studio, you can still do C Sharp, etc. So I, I I mean, I couldn't answer that for you. It depends on your resources, on what you want to do, what your backend is. I mean, with obviously with Blazor, you can reuse C sharp classes from the backend into the front end. But if you're running on the Node.js server, yeah, it's a bit different. You don't have that benefit anymore. So yeah, I would be more than happy to discuss it with you at a later stage or something. But it's yeah, typically something you have to decide for yourself. I'm totally I love this stuff. But that's okay.
Bias.
So yeah, I think this was good for a first episode. Further.
Well, you don't have anything else?
Oh, I can talk for days.
I know
No,
you can. I know I'm joking.
I'll need a sip of water, but now I can go for days. But
Well, we'll be
sure,
going for weeks
people.
instead.
So yeah, I think that we got like a nice little start here with some not so typical features, not too difficult either, but it will give you an impression on how to use this JavaScript interrupt in combination with stuff that we found on the internet. And well, apparently the answers are correct on Stack Overflow because it works. So yeah,
Yeah, so next week, are we
Yeah,
adding the rich
the
rich
next,
text editor, or what do we have coming next week, Don,
yeah,
do you
well,
know?
we could do different things. Yeah, we could actually. I was thinking myself on doing something with data access, but I mean, we could also
Oh,
do something with rich text editor. Maybe we should first do something about data access, how you can get data out of a database, and then we'll use the rich editor to do a mail merge or something. Maybe that's
mm,
there will
I
next
love
time.
me a mail merge.
I know, I know. You want to send it to all your friends, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Sounds
Okay,
like
so
a
the next
great
time,
time.
I guess we'll introduce how we can go with data access, how we can get some data out of a database into the grid, and yeah, see how we can do that. And then after that, we'll talk about the rich editor, how we can create nice little letters and mail it to customers or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right, Don.
cool.
Excellent first episode.
Yeah, so no more questions at this stage.
I
Yeah,
don't see nothing's popped up in the chat. Roller said thanks for your answer.
you're welcome. All right.
Um, all right. Well, that's it, everybody. See you next Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Don. Bye.